We're here to tell you what projects piqued our interest in this week's Kickstarter Pickstarter for the date of June 15th, 2020. We're starting off with Brotherwise Games' new Kickstarter, the same people who brought you Boss Monster, the very popular game, with their new title, Overlord. Unlike the other games though, this is a standalone, not an expansion for that game. In Overlord, you will be playing as bosses, setting up the above dungeon, the sort of mapscape. You'll be drafting map tiles, which each one reward different points for being adjacent to each other or other different circumstances. But you'll also be going for monster tiles that go on top of these map tiles. And usually they want to be together to form bands, so you want to sort of collect them in lines. You will then calculate points to see who is the Overlord by having the best map. Now, simple idea, but seems pretty fun with the multiple different drafting tiles that go on top of each other, a bit layered. And worth mentioning because it is Boss Monster itself is a very popular game, and this is from the same people in the same world.
Seems like it's still a pretty light, accessible game, at least easy to learn and get into. And it's a fun aesthetic, the pixel art thing that I feel like Boss Monster sort of was doing before a lot of other board games were doing it.
Yeah, in fact, this one sort of looks like, to me, unupdated. It's sort of like how it's the next game system. It's still pixely, but not as pixelated.
32-bit instead of 16-bit.
Yeah. And if you look at Boss Monster, you know that they just went all out with expansions and new weird cards and stuff. So even if this sounds cool, but maybe you're not sure if it's as interesting or complicated as you want it to be, know that they're probably just going to support the hell out of this, and there's going to be 500 tiles of different kinds for you to swap in and out probably within a year or two of this being released.
That's good.
Now, if you want the game, it's $40, but you can spend a little bit more for a Tower Edition. I think it comes with some extra little promos and bundles that you could, apparently they're already getting started on. So let us know if you're a Boss Monster fan and you're also looking to jump into the world of Overlord.
Our next pick is not a game, but an accessory for an existing game. It's the Terraforming Mars Big Box. For Terraforming Mars, the game in which players are doing what the title suggests, playing cards and building engines in order to gain the most points by improving the surface of Mars. Now there are 3D hex tiles that you can use, along with plenty of other upgraded components in this new edition, including 3D markers for several of the tracks and things on the boards, some promo cards and some new stuff mixed in, and of course, a big, giant box. There are actually two options for this. You can have a box that just holds the new 3D stuff while the rest of your game is separate, or you can get a gigantic box that holds every single thing imaginable, every expansion that exists for Terraforming Mars, just right in one place. There are also pledge levels where you can get the base game if you didn't have it already, or if you just have the base game, get all the expansions. There's plenty of stuff that you can dive into, but this is just kind of the ultimate accessory for Terraforming Mars. If you're a huge fan of that game, this is definitely an upgrade for the components. Personally, I kind of feel like I have a bunch of the expansions, a lot of the ones that I really want, and right now they all fit pretty well just inside the base box. And while I think the 3D tiles are very cool, and part of me thinks it would be nice to have that extra visual bump for the game, I don't know that for me it's really necessary. I don't really mind the sort of more lo-fi look of the original game. So I don't know that this is one I think I would spend all the money on that they're asking for it. But if you want 3D tiles and big box for Terraforming Mars, I mean, this is it. You are getting it right here.
I mean, the big box games, I'm always, not big box games, games when they make a big box version for, I'm always supportive of, because I like being able to carry everything in one box. Adding the 3D hexes, usually I'm a little unsure about that because I sort of like my thing, but Terraforming Mars is an amazing game that I love. And it's like, if there's a game to bling out, it's going to be one that you really love and want to play. So I'm like, that makes sense. I am like you, I sort of like the lo-fi, so I sort of wish they almost had a big box version for if you don't want the tiles. Now, I know you said everything fits in, but it'd be nice if like this box was designed to be like, you can put the expansion cards here, like it has the insert that's slotted, like it's specifically designed that way.
And it does. It has dividers that it comes with, and like everything has its own individual tray, and all that kind of stuff.
That's if you also get the
Right.
3D hexes. I'm saying like they had one that if you didn't want the hexes,
Right.
that would have been nice. Because I think I'm with you there. But still, like I said, this is an amazing game, and it is nice also that you can get any of the other stuff you're missing for Terraforming Mars. So, I mean, is it really that bad?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's bad at all. It's just really not for me, at least not right now. I'm like, I don't want that box to be 3 times as big. I just don't need it to be. It's fine to the size it is on my shelf.
Are you saying you don't need a stool to sit on?
Yeah, yeah, that could be good. Maybe an ottoman. But if you are diving in, as it seems many people are, you can pick up, again, just the box that will let you fit it into 2 boxes with the hexes for $79, upgrade to the bigger box for $99, or various other tiers above that if you want more stuff.
From Ice Makes, Eila and Something Shiny is a story-driven game when you take on the role of Eila, and together with other players, you will decide her adventure to discover whatever this something shiny is. In this game, you're going to be taking story cards, and they'll have choices on them. And in these choices, maybe you'll get resources. Sometimes you will maybe revisit these locations again. Sometimes you'll discard them and never go back to them. And the way the game works is you go through an initial story deck, and when that deck runs out, depending on the choices you make, you'll be adding cards in sort of the next chapter deck, which you'll shuffle, add to the story deck, and go through anew. Now, some of these choices aren't simple, just A, B. They've shown off how there's some things like there's map choices. You may go through like a cave system, and you'll be making choices that way, so through split ends. Sometimes they are dealing with different characters, sometimes choosing resources. Overall, it looks like a really cute story game where you can go through and play again to find out what different choices you make. Maybe if you make a left at the fork instead of a right. And I tend to like these kind of story things. It sounds very cute. Title's very interesting, though, when we first saw this. Something shiny.
I assume it's the idea is that, you're filling that blank in, right? That's what they're trying to get across.
Right.
But I have to say, I don't envy them marketing this game outside of Kickstarter in the future. But it's cute, and it looks like kind of, they're the storytelling thing, but it seems like they're blending more of a gameplay structure with that, which I think is cool.
And that's what's interesting, because usually with this choice, it's just A or B. And sometimes that can be boring if it's all cooperative. But this, it seems like sometimes the choices, like I said, there'll be that weird maze you have to go through and stuff. So I'm hoping that there's some other, they also said there's some puzzles and riddles. So there seems to be more than just making a choice. You may have to do some other things to make it a bit more interesting, which hopefully will spice up compared to some other story-driven games. Now, if you want the game itself, it's going for about $54. And this so far, I mean, maybe double take a look. It looks like it'd be something friendly. Also, if you want to try these games out with a child, I mean, definitely the artwork seems to imply that. If you're interested in reading or playing, I guess, a good bedtime story, then maybe you are looking for something shiny too.
The Age of Atlantis is a game from El Dorado Games, a civilization building game in which players are competing to see who should be the new ruler of Atlantis. And who are you trying to gain favor from to win that title? Of course, it's Poseidon, and he resides and presides over everything, and he does all kinds of siding over Atlantis. There's a big old Poseidon mini at the center of this board, and everybody has their own unique faction and your own workers that you're moving around the board in order to do research and build new technologies. Your workers are actually dice in this game, and you need to keep them happy, because every time you take an action with them, you will flip the die to a different side that shows that they're a little less happy. And if they're at 0 happiness, Poseidon will not like that. He wants you to keep everybody feeling good in Atlantis. So that's one interesting wrinkle that you got to worry about as you go. You'll also be building myths, which are, essentially mythological creatures, but I think there's sort of almost a steampunk kind of thing going on in this, if I interpreted it correctly, where it's more like they're machines in this world. And those are going to help you move workers around the board to different places, carry out special effects. And as the game goes on, you will be moving throughout different ages. Unlike Tapestry, everyone does move through those ages at the same time. It's determined by a number of achievements that everyone has completed. And once players have done a certain amount, then you move forward together. Looks like an interesting take on a civilization engine building world. Definitely drawing from a lot of, the same sort of Greek mythology stuff that we see in a lot of games, but, specifically tackling Atlantis in an interesting way, and the worker idea where they flip and change depending on what you do with them. I think it does have the potential to be an interesting game.
I definitely got a lot of heavy Civ vibes from it. There's even like a very big tech tree that seems to be involved in that. But another curious thing I saw is that it seems you can manipulate the Poseidon mini. Sometimes, depending where he's facing, he'll just flood that section and just like erase everything. So there seems to be also like trying to prep for that.
Right. Yeah. If he's not happy with you or whatever in any given place, yeah, he can flood things and then you have to rebuild your technology and stuff or your buildings that were there. Yeah. So kind of a cool, there's almost like a Sim City element to it. I don't know. What other simulation games can we compare it to? If you'd like to enter the Age of Atlantis, you can back it right now for the price of $59.
Now, this next game I think should have been titled Board Gamer Simulator. However, Arcus Games decided to go with a cuter title, Shelfie Stacker. In this game, you play as board gamers, and you'll be getting games to add to your collection. And this is all about stacking them on your shelf. You're trying to have the best collection, the prettiest looking one. And the way that it's going to work is this a dice collection game. You're going to roll a bunch of dice and put them into these boxes. And you will play cards from your hand. They're pretty much people you're going to help you out with different number values and also abilities. And these number values will let you get first pick in some of these cards. You're going to try to arrange these in your big board game shelf, which looks very similar to a very certain IKEA shelf. And you will try to have matching pairs and collections make sense. Now, sometimes they will not fit on your shelf. So you will have to put them on your shelf of shame. It's a little sideboard area, which you don't really care much about. All this artwork is very, I don't know if punny is the right word, but it's reminiscent of very board games, and you can recognize some of these like, that looks like Munchkin, or that looks like Raiders of the North Sea. You know, if you are in the board game world, you're going to look at this and see a lot of references that you get. I feel like it's very almost board game in jokes kind of thing, and I like that a lot. But the mechanics themselves, I do like the dice collection and trying to set things up. It's pretty cool. And they do have a bunch of other extra modules they're working on. I know there's a solo mode too, which is definitely always great to have. And it just seems to be like, if you're into board games, just something that'd be like, it feels good to have because it's going to be like, it gets you.
This might be a little too real for me. This one might hit a little too close to home. But it is a pretty great idea. You know, it's a puzzle in real life sometimes to figure out how to fit games on your shelf. So it makes sense to adapt it. And it looks like it's the kind of thing that it would be, like, it just looks satisfying to place those pieces into this sort of layered board.
Yeah. And unlike, actual board games, all the dice are the same shape. So you're not having to think, oh my God, this is two centimeters too big to fit here. You can pretend when you finish, like, I have finished completing and cleaning my collection. Well, meanwhile, there's stacks of board games just behind you that you're just ignoring.
Yeah, we don't talk about those.
Now, the game itself is for $39. If you are a big board game gamer, or maybe if you are into board games but you know someone who isn't, this may be a good game to play with them so they can truly understand why you need to spend hours staring at just one part of your shelf.
Those are the picks we picked this week. We'd like to hear from you. Are you going to be upgrading your Terraforming Mars collection? Or maybe you're diving in for the first time and you're deciding to just get everything all at once? Or maybe you're a big Boss Monster fan and you want to see what this new Overlord game has to offer. If you have any other picks that you'd like to share with us, you can do so, as always, in the comments section down below.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you, whether you're backing a returning game like these Terraforming Mars or re-implementing the world in Overlord. Maybe you're trying something new in some of the other Kickstarters we mentioned. You can let us know. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Kickstarter Pickstarter. We want you to like and subscribe, and if you have the chance, take a look at our Patreon.
Thank you for being a friend. Subscribe to our channel and back again. Okay.